We've got a new browser, but it's just for agents. Cursor's making a big UI shift, and we've got a field report from RenderATL. Let's get into it. I'm your host, Jack Harrington, this week, and I've got my kit on. I'm feeling all good in my sport jacket here, and I've got my friends with me, TJ Van Tol.
Hey, everybody.
And Paige Niederinghouse.
Hey, everyone.
Who I met in person in Atlanta.
Yes. We were in the same city in the same time.
God. Yes. And we, ate, I ate bison, but, we ate some dinner together. It was great. Okay.
Yeah, it was very fun.
There is so much news. Let's get into it.
All right.
We didn't do our episode last week, so we got a lot of stuff to get into. And I think we're going to start with the browser. This new browser for agents. What's up with this?
Yes. So Cloudflare is at it again. They have I know. They just keep pumping out great new stuff. But yeah.
They're vibing.
They really are. How many engineers are there? I don't know.
A few with a lot of good agents, apparently.
With a lot of credits, yeah.
Yes. So there is a new browser out, and it's called Kitesurf, and it is an agent-first browser. And it's something apparently that Cloudflare has talked about internally for years, but they always came up against the question of why would we build a browser? What are the existing browsers not doing today?
Yeah.
But finally, it has reached the tipping point, in their opinion, where there are so many agents going out and using browsers to fetch information, to take screenshots, to generate PDFs, etc., that there is a lot of extra overhead that comes with typical Chromium browsers that agents don't need. They don't need things like syncing across devices. They don't need tabs and organization. They don't need buttery smooth 60 FPS frame rates to have a good experience. No. And so it was kind of, the question came up again. And so they did a really great write-up on how they built it. But it came out of the idea an idea called Obscura, which is, I haven't looked into it, but it was another idea where basically it was for agents. It was no node dependencies, no Chromium needed, no extra libraries basically, but it was an AI headless browser implementation so that agents could go and get what they needed. So they kind of took that idea and ran with it and put a bunch of agents together on loops with a very clear definition of done. And 12 weeks later, Kitesurf became a real thing.
Wow, that's amazing they did it that way, because one would have maybe thought that there would be like a way to take Chrome and just like turn flags off or something like that. But wow, like from the ground up.
Yeah, there were a
really
few
impressive
false starts according to the write-up, but once they had kind of gotten a very rough proof of concept together, then they started iterating on it. And the way that they did it was lots of tests. There is a set of tests called the web platform tests, which is kind of what the browsers use, and the W3C promotes, I guess, for how to assess a browser's capability. So they used that and then built on top of it using Puppeteer to do all these multi-step testing processes. So they used those. Of course, they used Rust whenever possible because they could compile it to WASM, and everything is Rust. It's as close to the metals you can get today. Isolation by design, which is already what Cloudflare workers do. So that was an easy one to kind of build into this. And then stateless whenever possible, because so many of the things that they're doing on the internet are just quick, go out, research this, go grab some information, take a screenshot, evaluate it. So yeah, it has reduced their memory and CPU usage, which were the two main things that Chrome is very heavy about. There are no long-running processes that it can do right now. It is very much, they call it bursty web activity, where an AI just goes out and grabs some information quickly. And most importantly, they could run Doom on it.
There you go.
The greatest test of all.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow.
But
okay.
yeah, it's available now. If you want to try it out, it's for free in their beta testing in quick actions is how they describe it. So page content, PDFs, screenshots. But yeah, it's pretty impressive, and it actually makes a lot of sense when you think about what we are asking agents to do, that Cloudflare would be the ones to kind of put this together.
I will say
that are like an Anthropic, but yeah.
Yeah, the idea here I think is great because I've noticed in my just daily workflows that my AI agents are using browsers a lot more than they used to. They're getting way better at just spinning up these headless things to verify what they're doing. Just this morning I was building a little form and Claude Opus just popped up Playwright and was like, I'm going to go test this form, and it's going through and running through it. And that used to be kind of clunky, but they're getting kind of good at it. And I'm sure, Playwright is headless based off Chromium. I'm sure it's less efficient than something that's built from the ground up, specifically designed for this, that doesn't have some of the clutter behind it. My concern with this is that it is kind of nice that when I'm using these MCPs, when I'm using a real browser engine, because when I'm testing this, I kind of want to hit any potential little browser bugs or things built into Chromium. So but it kind of depends on what you're doing. If I'm testing a front-end web feature, then I want that. But if I just need the browser to be used, then I don't. I just want the most efficient, token efficient, time efficient.
Yeah. It's not like that big of a deal. Yeah. No, that makes sense. I like it because I gotta say, like when I kind of mess with the AIs a little bit when they're doing their work. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, that's neat. And then I'll like click in the browser and they're like, hey, that's my browser.
Yeah.
Stop that.
It upsets them.
Yeah, they'll start. Yeah. I noticed this changed while I was doing this.
Like, right? I noticed we've already moved on to the next thing. I didn't do that. Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, man. Sorry. My bad. Yeah.
So we'll see. All right. I'm not jumping on the early betas of this sort of thing. I'll wait till it's a little more it's cooked a little bit more, but I like where they're going with this.
Yeah.
I probably will. That's just me though.
Yeah.
I know you're an early adopter, Jack. But yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, TJ. Like I'm okay with it spinning up its own browser with Puppeteer or Playwright or what have you, and just kind of doing its stuff that way and watching it for the most part.
All right. Well, that's one big move. So Cursor's making a big move, huh?
Cursor has migrated the part of the UI that especially their agents view. So if you're a Cursor user, Cursor's built on VS Code, so a lot of the stuff they inherited from VS Code, like the code editor and whatnot. But they built a lot of stuff on top of it, such as their agents view. Yep. And that was built on Solid, and they have migrated that to React. And part of the reason for that is Lauren Tan, who is a Cursor engineer, but was a former React Core team member, so obviously has some bias towards moving things towards React. But she put out a quite long and interesting tweet about some of this. So just to quote her real quick, the big motivation for this migration was for perf and maintainability reasons. We've seen that in practice, it is quite easy to create perf foot guns for yourself in signal-based approaches, so with Solid, when reactivity causes a large amount of accidental fan-out in large and complex apps. So then to continue, I think it's fair that every UI framework has its pitfalls and no perfect one exists. For us, React was the most known quantity, and we found that solving its problems is actually quite straightforward and boring. So, and she goes on, there's more in here, basically just saying that she said something interesting I've also observed is the uncanny valley effect of non-React frameworks looking like React, which confuses agents.
Yes.
And that is really fascinating because for better or worse, there is so much React code out there. There is so many React articles out there that agents know React very well. And if something is close to React but not React, these agents can often do bad things because it's just React is so baked into them. And to see a major player like Cursor, who we've just talked about, has just made a boatload of money from their acquisition by SpaceX and XAI and such, to see a major player like this switch back to React and to cite these reasons, I think is really, really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and especially with Solid.js 2.0 coming out, right? That's
right.
Yeah, they just had an RC.
So at the same exact time.
So
yeah.
Yep.
I gotta say, like, I see where she's coming from with the foot guns thing. What always gets me in Solid, like, every single time is it's common practice in React to just, or JSX, I guess. Yeah, React. To destructure your props, right? Mm-hmm. You don't take, props as the object and then do props.x, props.y. You just do, curly braces x, y, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Well, the foot gun in Solid is that if you do that, you lose the reactivity. It can't actually trace the reactivity, and so you lose the signals. And that's the thing. Like myself, like every time I wrote Solid, I would hit that foot gun. Oh, whoops, and I gotta fix that. And then I'm sure agents do exactly the same thing.
Mm-hmm. And React has now become the modern day IBM. Nobody got fired for choosing React as their framework, and nobody got fired for choosing IBM as their, server back in the day.
Well, and, React has its own foot guns, of course. It has use effect. It has over rendering and such. So she also cites that React compiler solves most of your perf problems with over rendering. And then she also says our in-house agent-friendly React framework actually bans use effect outright and only exposes it indirectly through framework-provided hooks. So basically, they've also taken steps to try to prevent agents from hitting React's foot guns, the things it commonly trips up on, and mentions that React compiler kind of solves the worst of the over-rendering. I feel like in React apps, at least most React apps that I've seen, the biggest problem is just over-rendering. You're just not aware that you're changing something and it's actually cascading effects all over the place. And according to her, at least, React compiler is catching the worst of that for them. And so it's funny that we're in an era of, instead of capturing these foot guns ourselves, we're just teaching our agents how to not hit these foot guns
avoid
instead.
The foot guns. Yes,
right.
Exactly.
So it's just really interesting to see the steps that a big player like Cursor is taking to do this.
Yeah, and as you said, since Lauren worked on the React core team for quite a while before moving over to Cursor, she is probably very intimately familiar with all those foot guns that React presents, as well as how to overcome them or avoid them. So, yeah, just building rules and hooks and ways to avoid them, which it seems like there's a million libraries and dependencies and extra things that you can add in to avoid them as well. Makes a lot of sense. Go with something that you know very well and also know how to mitigate the issues with.
This is going to be interesting because there's Octane now in the mix too. And Octane is basically React minus the dependency arrays and with a different compiler. And that's the thing. Like the React compiler, you're getting rid of the dependency arrays and it's tracking all that for you. So like the over render thing isn't as much of a problem. But rendering itself in React is still not as performant as Solid, right? You still have that thing where you're creating like this VDOM tree of nodes, and you're diffing against the internally stored VDOM tree, and then applying that to the DOM, and it's a whole rigmarole, right? Whereas Solid's whole thing was like we have an actual compiler that just like, hey, we're gonna write .innerHTML equals blah for you, or inner text equals blah for you, and that's where the compiler of Octane, that's what the compiler of Octane does. So the compiler on Octane gets you code that's like right out of the box, twice as performant as React, with the same API signature essentially as React. and then I think what might help in this case with your agent problem is that like the extension of the file is different because they use the TSRX or whatever, and so like that may help the AIs be like, this is something like fundamentally different. So I have to write my code differently. So
yeah,
maybe
we covered Octane on our previous episode if people want to listen back, and I think one of the things that gives it a chance is because it's still mostly React. So you can put in your agents.md with your siren emoji that tells it, this is Octane, it's slightly different. Here's what to look out for. And hopefully your agent will then figure out those subtle differences. So I think it has a chance of taking off. I do.
And I guess the question is like, if the footgun of useEffect is truly the dependency arrays, then if you took out the dependency arrays, then useEffect is no longer a footgun. So and that's what Octane does, and that's what the React compiler does. So that one is a little odd for me. Yeah.
There's also she also mentions real quick, like at the bottom of this, that and this is probably something we can talk about in a future episode, but they also converted all of their CSS and Tailwind to style X also. Which
they went full meta.
Yeah, they went all in on the meta.
Wow.
But she said that the blog post coming, so we'll probably discuss that later when we have more details on that.
Wow. Okay.
That's a choice.
Yeah. All right. I mean, I like working on the StyleX guy. I thought he was really fun and cool and all that. But to me, it was more of a big company solution. And maybe, I guess, Cursor's a big company now, I guess. I don't know. Who knows?
I mean, but they got acquired for, what, $40 billion? I think that makes them big enough.
Oh, man. It's just, the numbers are just so crazy nowadays.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Well, RenderATL, if you don't know about it, is a conference out of Atlanta, Hotlanta, as it were, particularly this time of year. And yeah, I was invited to go check out, to give a presentation there. And I was also invited to go to the Commits Award, which is why I got this really cool, jacket, because it was a formal affair. This was Render giving out awards to, community members and projects that have done fantastic work in the open source space. And they likened it to the Academy Awards. So everybody had to dress up, dress formally. They actually had the awards created by the same folks that make the actual Academy Awards. And they were hilariously heavy awards. Like everybody who got up on stage was like, oh my God, this is not your bowling trophy. Like, this is like a serious piece of thing. Tanstack got an award for Tanstack Router, which is awesome. And another one that was really great was Angie got an award for Goose, which if you haven't used it before is like an open source harness for AI. It's been around for a long time, and it's kind of where like all the cutting edge features for harnesses go and get created in the open source world before you see them over on in the main apps like MCP and apps and all that. That was basically piloted in Goose. So they're on the cutting edge, and Angie's just doing amazing work. Love Angie. She's just an amazing person. So yeah, that was great to see. And then the conference, I don't know. I haven't been to a Render before, but but from what I heard and what I saw in terms of like the amount of space used in the conference rooms, it was kind of lightly-ish attended, like not as much attended. So that's certainly an interesting thing to talk about nowadays. Is like, what is the future of front-end conferences?
Oh man, how much time do we have? Because
I have so many things to say or questions to ask about this.
I mean, yeah, like what's the future of front-end conferences? I mean, you could even broaden it because it coincides with what's the future of the front end. I mean, like, to be totally honest with people, we have conversations of like, is there still a space for a front-end podcast in an AI world, just because everything's getting broader and everything's getting just completely absorbed by AI. And I'm just looking over the schedule here because I was kind of curious, and 2 of the tracks are related to AI in here. And I don't know how much people are going to be interested moving forward on just front end specific things.
They're not. They're not. I was also did what was it? Infinite Red's React Chain React here, which is a great conference, and I love the folks that put it together. It was great, but it was maybe half of what it was the year before. And from what I'm hearing from conference organizers, is like it's AI or it's not like happening right now. It's kind of like definitely diminished.
I mean, we've had the same conversation about our podcast, about YouTube videos, about writing technical articles, which people used to do and have done for decades at this point. And the question just keeps coming back of, is it relevant? Because there's no viewers, there's no readers, there's no commenters, there's no subscribers. It's just AI ingesting all of it and then feeding it back to the agent or to the Google summary or to whatever it is that you're asking about. So, yeah, I really wonder if there is, and we've heard about other podcasts, shutting down recently or preparing to. So I really wonder if there's no money in it, is it going to continue?
I think this podcast really reflects the interest of the three of us, and it's kind of evolved with where we're at. So if you look at
a lot about AI.
Yeah, if you look at the topics we cover, like even the stuff we're talking today and into the bonus news, the amount of AI we talk about has just gradually risen over time. But we at least still have a front-end interest, right? We talk about front-end topics, but the way we're talking about them is quite different. It's in the sort of with taking AI into account. So we look at cursor switching, and AI plays into that. We talk about Octane, and Octane part of we're talking about how AI influences it. And honestly, I think if there is a future for these front end conferences, it's kind of has to be like just AI with front end stuff sprinkled in or other stuff sprinkled in, because that's where the conferences always reflect what's the hip thing. That's always been true. You go to the conferences, you're not here to learn yesterday's technology. You're here to hear whatever the cutting edge is. Yep. And the cutting edge is AI now, like 97% essentially. And so I think the future, the short-term future of conferences, of anything in this space is maybe AI with just a certain, we're kind of like a front-end tilt on the AI news essentially. And I think conferences are probably heading that way. This podcast is probably headed that way. That's just where we're at.
But I think the bigger question is there enough money in it to make these things still worth putting on? That's the question of sponsorships and ads and booths and things like that. Like, are there enough companies who are going to say it's still relevant for my devs to go to this for 3 days and pay X amount of dollars for it, and instead of just using their cursor, using their chat GPT, using their Claude, and continuing to, read articles from time to time, but basically keep doing what they're doing and just let the industry advance and kind of stay with it.
I can answer that directly, actually. I was hanging out in the green room with some folks, and one of whom was a conference organizer, and they lost like $50K in advertising because they decided to go with like a no AI like approach. And the sponsors were just like, yeah, no, we don't want to be part of that. Like, and it's just very practical. They understand the advertisers understand where people's interests are, and they want to be wherever the eyeballs are.
And I think to answer your question, Paige, though, I think there is still an interest in doing this sort of thing because people want to know about the latest and the greatest. And I think the market for conferences, the market for all this stuff is hot whenever there's something very active and that people want to learn about. And I'd say that's very, very true right now. I just think conferences have to be, and the entire world just has to be ready to pivot, because The hot topics now are what agents are you doing? How are you using them? How are you managing costs? Cost is a big deal right now because companies, if you give everybody access to Fable Unlimited, well, you're gonna blow a huge budget doing so. So there's a lot of tooling around that, and that's where the advertising money is too.
And that's
because people are
Fable, which is crazy. So
yeah. But that's where the advertising money is going to come in, and so you just have to skate to where the puck is going, not to where it's at. And it's AI, and I think honestly, you're a bit delusional if you're trying to just pretend like AI doesn't exist at this point. It is the revolution of our times. It is the revolution of our industry, and I don't know if I feel great about that, but I think that's just reality.
Well, I think the puck is actually going, like right now, I'm starting to see the beginnings of the anti-AI blast back, because when I actually had a couple minutes or two to just kind of warm up the crowd, what it was, like maybe 40 people who were coming to go see my talk. It was the last one of the day, I was kind of over in a corner, wwhatever, but 40 people. And yeah. I asked them, hey, I'm talking to a lot of people here, and people seem to be gravitating between two extremes on a daily basis, one of which is like existential dread about AI and all that, and the other is like God mode. And they just keep on flipping between these two things. And somebody said, like, yeah, the human brain's not meant to go through that mental gymnastics on a daily basis. I'm like, yeah, that's true. But like, people are burning out like really, really fast. People are dropping out of the industry. Like we're going to push back. Like, I think that there will be a pushback. You're already starting to see it. Like in YouTube, there's Mo Batar, who's talking all the time about how bad AIs are. And, there's one guy who was like, I quit AIs entirely, who just did a video that was getting like, I don't know, like over 3 days, like 500,000 views. It was, there's a thing here. So, I think that's where the puck is going. And then we'll see where it goes past that.
But see, those are your conference sessions. You have one on coping with AI. You have one on, managing burnout. Those are the types of things. Those are the soft talks at your new conference. Those are the topics that people want to hear about.
Yeah.
So I'm announcing we're running a conference here at Front End Fire.
Exactly.
The Front End Fire, yeah, it's
yeah.
I have all the tracks. We got this all figured out.
It's all going to be soft talks. We're all just going to go and hang out in bean bags and just talk about our feelings. It's going to be great.
So I've organized and ran conferences before. I've gotten speakers before. It is so hard. And I have so much respect for the people that do it, because especially if you're doing it at a bigger scale, the amount of money that gets involved in here, you are fronting a lot with the chance to lose a lot of money. And especially in today's day and age where these things are crazy and it's very speculative, I have a lot of respect for people that do this, including Render, because it is very hard.
Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, speaking as a person who has talked at conferences, that is hard enough, organizing myself and putting together a talk that I feel will be decently useful to people, but trying to actually organize all of that and get the speakers and the rooms and the spaces and make it fun and exciting. Wow. Yeah. Kudos to all of them.
And because
what
of that,
is that?
I can say,
why is it so hard to make slides? I don't understand. I really
just have your agents make them now, man. Claude can do it.
Yeah. But back in the day, you had to agonize over them yourself.
Actually, I did. I just did this. I agonized over it myself. And there is a little thing, agent thing on Keynote that's like, make it happen. And I'm like, oh, is that going to be like Apple AI? What is that? That's not going to be it's not going to be good.
No. You just brain dump into Claude, and Claude will make good slides for you.
Really? Genuinely?
Yeah.
Okay.
It actually is pretty good, believe it or not.
All right.
Surprisingly.
Can it create does it create like a PowerPoint or something? Because I like animations. I'm a big animation guy. Okay.
Oh, it can do animations.
Sure it can.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
I've done it. It works. It's slow, and it's probably churning through tokens, but it actually does a genuinely pretty good job.
I ain't paying for the tokens. Well, I mean, I kind of am, but whatever. Sometimes.
I will say, I do hope these conferences continue to exist for the next generation. I've spent a lot of time at conferences. I've been on all ends of them. I've been an attender, I've been a speaker, I've been an organizer, and I think it's a genuinely good thing for the community, and I hope it continues to exist. I just worry about what its future is.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole lot of stuff where I worry about the future, for sure.
Yeah.
In the age of AI. All right, so we do a little lightning news.
Oh,
Yes.
this is going to be fun.
Oh boy, we're going to have a lot of this.
Yeah.
Okay, who's starting us off?
I can do the quickest of the quick lightning news, probably. PNP, I know. PNPM 12, which many of us, I think, are using at this point because PNPM seems to be the better option for more secure, less bad NPM packages making it from NPM to your computer. 12 is out, and it has been rewritten in Rust because, obviously.
Yep. Yeah. Because, of course.
Yeah. The little write-up that they did about it is very, very short, and it honestly does not cover a lot of what I am assuming Rust is giving it, like probably better performance, probably increased, memory usage, all that stuff that we typically associate with Rust. It just basically says that Rust is available now. It is in release candidate, and there are a couple of things that just do not work with the new version. So there's a few caveats, but otherwise it's available. Try it, give them feedback. But yeah, they really didn't go into a lot of detail. It's just like, obviously it should be in Rust today.
Thing is, pnpm is already really fast. I don't know if they necessarily needed to do this, but I mean, if you can, I guess, why not?
Sure.
Maybe. I mean, if you have big workspace or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say I've started to give up more control and just let the agents do this stuff. So for some of our work projects, we've been doing some bigger migrations than what we had before. And I'm just kind of letting it go. And you know what? For the most part, it's actually working out just fine.
Yeah, right. All right. What's up next?
All right. So we got some Microsoft news that I thought was funny just because of a specific video, which I did show to Paige and Jack. So the headline here is that Microsoft is merging its Copilot branded consumer and business apps and ditching a number of unsuccessful AI features. So this is Paige's thing about how they're just shoving AI into places where it makes pretty much no sense whatsoever. So apparently, So apparently consumers are going to lose access to a bunch of stuff that Microsoft made that I didn't even know existed. So they had some AI group chats with Copilot that apparently you could do. They would do AI generated podcasts, some experimental features, deep research. I don't think any consumers at least, were using this whatsoever. But the thing that caught my attention was that Copilot is also ditching its goofy animated character named Miko, a floating blob that according to TechCrunch here, felt like an AI-ified version of Clippy. And the second I read that sentence, I had to find what Miko was, because this was the first time I had heard of Miko. I'm guessing you two had never heard of Miko before this either.
Nope.
Maybe I didn't read the full context. I actually thought this was a new thing. And I'm like, what?
No, Miko's already dead. But the first time I'm
Miko
learning
was alive and then died. Okay.
Yeah, Miko was...
I'm so sad for Miko.
Yeah, no idea it existed.
Not that I had no
Miko
idea
lived for like 5 or 6 months or something. But I implore you, there will be a link to this in the show notes. Watch the YouTube video on Miko, because it is the stupidest thing I think I've seen. It's really like, if there's an AI bubble and it bursts, we're gonna look back on Miko like we did on pets.com or whatever from the .com bubble days, because it looks like you would think it's a parody. You'd think SNL produced this video. It's a character that has no reason to exist that apparently no one used, and it's just so silly.
Yeah, it looks like it's really terrible.
Yeah, what's the Japanese anime guy?
There's a lot of those.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, the famous director. It looks like something from his movies.
Oh,
you know, like the little
Miyazaki.
Yeah, it looks like a character from a Miyazaki film. It's this kind of like wispy ball of, I don't know, like illuminated something,
or maybe like a rejected Miyazaki figure,
like
it didn't make the cut.
Character.
Yeah.
Or like an accepted one from Nintendo. I remember. I think there was like Lumas or something like that in like a Super Mario Galaxy.
Oh yeah, it could fit into Super Mario Galaxy. Yeah, I could totally see Miko coming over to Mario as like a NPC.
I loved that game. Why don't they do that game again?
They did. There's a Super Mario Galaxy 2. There's 2 of them.
I know, and I think they did like an HD remix. But I'm like, no, I want to make a third. Like make a legit game.
Keep it going forever.
Why not?
It is a good game.
They did the Expendables forever. Like, there's worse things you could do forever.
Yeah, there's still Fast and Furious movies for some reason. So I mean, it's just
there probably
is
one
it won't end,
right? Actually, I should go check into that. There's probably one coming out this summer. Well, next summer, as it were. All right. Any more?
Oh yeah. I got 2 more. So an Anthropic blog post came out where they were talking about the Riemann hypothesis, which is another thing I didn't know existed, but it is apparently a famous unsolved problem in mathematics. It dates back to 1859. It has $1 million bounty. It's about prime numbers lining up and zeros lining up. And Anthropic published this blog post, and I'm just reading it because I read most things Anthropic writes, and they talk about their attempt that they were making to solve the Riemann hypothesis and that it didn't succeed, but it made strides on a related problem. So I'm reading through this, and then I found this paragraph, and this paragraph will explain why I'm reading it on this show. And I also just find this hilarious. So it starts, Jared Sumner, an Anthropic staff member, and then in parentheses, and non-mathematician, prompted Claude to take, quote, a real stab at the hypothesis, leaving the mathematical choices from there up to the model. Initially, Claude generated and tried 650 ideas, none of which worked. Jared prompted Claude to try again, and it spent a day and a half.
Try again, Claude. Go for it.
It spent a day and a half coordinating about 60 Claude subagents, which this time went much deeper. Between them, they ran 2,400 shell commands and wrote hundreds of Python scripts. The subagents ran thousands of numerical checks around known zeta zeros, whatever those are, and refereed one another's work. Throughout this process, this is the best part, Jared's input was mostly limited to sending Claude messages of encouragement, mostly variants of keep going or believe in yourself. This seems to have helped Claude. This seems to have helped Claude overcome some initial skepticism that it could make meaningful progress.
So he told Claude, you can do it. No mistakes.
Well, while 60 Claude subagents are churning away at this and running Bash, they're doing Python.
Well,
they're just getting off a cliff. Like, I don't know. I don't think I can ever solve this problem. I wish somebody would give me some encouragement. And Jared's there on the sidelines with
you got it, Claude.
You got it, Claude. You're the man. You're the man, Claude.
I'm just picturing. So Jared Sumner, creator of Bun that we've talked about on the show several times.
That's awesome.
When Bun got acquired by Anthropic, Jared became an Anthropic employee. So that's some of the background here, if in case you're not aware. But I just love the idea that Jared just woke up one day and was like, you know what? Let's take a stab at the Riemann hypothesis, which, not being a mathematician, he doesn't know much about. But he just gave Claude some gentle encouragement from time to time.
It was probably some unrelated conversation they were talking about. I don't know, the some meta thing about like the extensive AI and whatnot, and it just kind of popped out and like Riemann. It was like Riemann hypothesis. What's that? It's this great unsolved mystery. Okay, just go for it, man. Like open up another window, Just have at it.
Yeah.
Like, make it happen.
Type in the agent.
I got
Keep
unlimited
going.
credits. Let's go. Let's go.
Right. I'd love to know how many tokens Claude's churned through to get, closer to an answer.
Not even. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
I feel like Jared just has become a bit of an expert in this because his write-up on how they migrated Bun, how he basically sounds like it was just mostly a solo show, how he migrated Bun from Zig to Rust. And if you haven't read that write-up, you should go back and find it because it really is interesting. And it's doing things at a scale that most of us aren't going to do because he said the cost to a layman doing that would go into the small six figures to do just this sheer amount of tokens that are used. So it's something that you kind of have to be in this sort of position to be able to pull off because most of us aren't just going to casually do this, both because we don't necessarily know how, and also because we just don't have the budget. Like, we can't just casually throw around, this is probably, I'm guessing that this is into the high four figures or five figures to do something like this, I feel like. So it's not something that we're just not a weekend project for your average person. But for Jared, apparently it is.
Apparently it is. I think that's
we
the
really
thing about
need...
working for Anthropic. Like, you get access to that.
I was going to say, Anthropic needs to hire some of the top researchers for things like cancer cures, because while it's great that they're solving mathematical equations, if we could actually throw some people who are solving cancer and other, trying to cure the world of real ills, that'd probably be a better spend of their money.
They do have mathematicians on staff because they talk about that in this article, that's how they kind of verified that some progress was made because they kind of have to bring in people that know what they're talking about in this realm to do that. And so they are doing some of that. And I don't know with cancer curing, that sort of thing specifically, but with math, they are, because this is becoming an area where these models are trying to make headlines that they're solving long-running problems in here, but then you kind of do need experts in the field to verify your work and lend some credibility to your efforts.
Right.
I'm a page.
Because
let's solve cancer. Like, I'd rather do.
Yeah,
I'd
that seems more
rather burn a
important
lot
than
of water
Riemann.
in solving cancer.
Yeah. World hunger, cancer, climate change. Maybe let's throw some tokens at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would also be good for AI's image. Like, if we're solving things that are actually harmful.
Yeah. Or how to cool AI without water. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Like, solve your own problem.
Yeah. AI does have a little bit of an image problem, so,
Oof.
But I do have one last AI headline for you. This one is pretty fun. This was an article by Andrew Bird, who is apparently the head of AI at Affinda, which is an AI document company that I haven't heard of, but it doesn't really matter. He wrote this article back in April, but the tech world kind of discovered it over the last few weeks. So I found this from an article in TechCrunch that was published a week and a half ago, but we were out last week. But Andrew apparently was trying to book a gym class at a very popular gym, and the classes would fill up fast. So he got sick of just refreshing when classes are available to try to be that first one to get in. So he set Opus on doing this instead, which seems like a decent use case, right? Just have Opus look for openings and try to get that. But what did the first thing Opus find was, well, it found that there was the gym software provider exposed a GraphQL API endpoint with authorization flaws. And it found that it could book classes months outside the intended booking window before they were supposed to be available, and that it could cancel other members' reservations and bump them off the wait list. And according to Andrew's write-up, at least, he did not partake in those actions, but he wrote those up. And this is another just great headline of these models. Even if being able to do things, discovering vulnerabilities when they're not even really intended to be doing so.
Oh, actually, I heard it went farther than that. I heard it actually, like, accident as it was probing around, it canceled somebody's reservation.
Yeah.
And
kicked someone off the list.
It kicked someone
so
off
he
the
could
list.
move up.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I love that.
It did.
Which, I can understand how it at least it did that once and just stopped. And it was like, whoa, I didn't expect that to work. I guess it did. But okay,
Can't undo that.
Right? Whoops.
So I was very tempted. One of my favorite things to do as a web developer that feels a little bit malicious is, so if for those of you that don't have children, the practice of getting school pictures is basically them extorting you out of money for very simple things. Like they charge an outrageous amount of money. They use software that was written in like 1999 and that barely works and that you're lucky if it works, all for you to pay a fortune. So one of my things I like to do is I like to see, can I get those pictures for free? And if I can, I always do. I try to be a reasonable person. I always do end up making a purchase because I do feel like I don't want to just steal this, because I do realize there's people behind this and they make a living and such. But my like ethical thing is I try to get all the pictures for free and then I just pay for, some chunk of it, right? So that I am getting some of it. And sometimes I can pull it off. Sometimes some of these services, so like I just bought school pictures and I looked into their stuff. I was, in DevTools pretty heavily. And this new service that they're using was quite good. And it didn't make it easy to do stuff. But man, I was so tempted to just like bust out Fable and just say, hey, Fable, here's the site. I can almost guarantee you there's some way to get access to these pictures. And I didn't do it, or if I did, I wouldn't disclose it here anyways. But I did not. I did not do it, but I was tempted to. And like the number of people in those sort of scenarios now that are starting to know how to use these tools, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. And a lot of the stuff for automation, like Cloudflare would usually like get, it has some pretty good automation blockers. Like I've tried automating some sites that, just a part of my workflow kind of thing. And they're backed up they're on Cloudflare and like, nah, you can't get through that. But now with like, and that was like straight up just hitting the endpoints kind of thing. But now like we've got great browser automation. So yeah, it really opens up a whole new area, attack surface, as they say in the the security world.
It does. And we made fun of that browser automation. We can go back to old episodes of this podcast and we could talk about how we tried it and it was complete garbage. And now it's getting pretty good. Now
it's real good. Yeah.
But anyways, if you're trying to book something, maybe like, book something popular, maybe throw Claude or Codex at it. You might have better luck than refreshing your browser window.
Yeah, I mean the old school thing used to be scripts, that you'd write scripts to buy super popular concert tickets or to run and buy the new Nike shoes that just dropped or whatever. But now you can just throw an agent at it and see what it can figure out.
The ticket services will just be agents fighting agents to get in there. That's
Yep. And it's like whoever's got pays for the best agent or whatever.
Who's got the most GPUs? Let's do this.
Exactly. Who actually works for Anthropic? Every concert's like the entire front row is all Anthropic employees.
Yeah, Jared's booking the whole venue.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Is that it for lightning news?
Oh, yeah, that's it. I think that's enough.
I think so.
Yeah, no, those are great. I love them. Let's do some, let's make us happy.
Let's do it.
TJ, what's making you happy this week?
So the New York Times is making me happy this morning, and specifically one scroll animation they have on this article. I don't know if either of you saw it. I dropped it in our chat earlier today, but it is basically a scroll animation they did related to the Freedom 250, which is an IndyCar race that's taking place in Washington, D.C. this weekend as we record it. As you're listening to this, it will have already happened. And the course that they're using for this is pretty ambitious because it is right in D.C., right downtown. And what the New York Times did that is so cool is they used imagery from Google Maps and Google Earth. And as you scroll, you are basically driving an Indy car through the course with the maps rendered around you. And then they're bringing in tooltips as you scroll to give you context about what you're seeing and things about the course. And it is just so incredibly well done because it's solving a thing I was actually curious about. I mean, I know DC, I've been there a few times. I know kind of where the track is, but I was curious, like, wait, how are they doing this? Like, where is it? Where is it going? And the animation just places you in that place and then just takes you around it and provides context. And it's so smooth. And I know how hard that stuff is to build. I've built stupid scroll animating sites before. And when I did it, I was doing this pre-agent and in ancient browsers and whatnot. That stuff was so hard, and maybe this was agentically done, but whatever. Still, it's just so good, and it is going to be paywalled. So I linked to it. If you don't have a subscription, I don't know if you're going to get paywalled or not, unfortunately. But if you do have a subscription, or if you do want to see whether they'll let you through, I just thought it was really, really cool.
I do actually have a subscription, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I'll definitely. I haven't had a chance to check it out, but I will. But it just makes me remember in the days when parallax was the thing, when parallax scrolling was just the biggest, hottest UX trend.
Yeah.
And you had the fixed background and the scrolling foreground, and everybody was doing it all the time. But
I built a one-off parallax scrolling site for the company I worked for was having an anniversary, and they wanted something for social media, so it was like a one-off thing. And like I spent 2 weeks with parallax scrolling, JavaScript crazy. I was so proud of that thing, and it was a really
good boss comes up, he's like, "It doesn't work on mobile." You're like,
correct. It broke pretty much immediately, but it just had to work for that one social media push is the thing. So it was an excuse to write really crappy code too, which was pretty liberating. So it was fun.
Nice. Hey, just making you happy.
This week, I am going to say that the ChatGPT desktop app is making me happy, which is so. We've talked many times about how ChatGPT is inferior to Claude Code in pretty much every way. However, recently, it seems like Claude Opus 5 is not as good at following instructions, especially after the context has been going for a while. And I say this in specific to the responses that it writes or the comments that it does inside of code. They are unintelligible sometimes. Claude is just so esoteric and so smart and has figured out it's kind of its own programming language or its own way of describing things within a session, and nobody who has not been following along can read it. And it takes an eternity to sometimes just parse out what was Claude actually saying in this giant block of text where I just asked it, is this relevant still in this PR? And it gives me back like 3 paragraphs of that. So even though I have set up hooks for Claude to not be so smart and be more succinct, it just wasn't doing a very good job of following those directions. So I downloaded ChatGPT desktop app this week, which is Codex has been folded into it. So there is no specific Codex versus ChatGPT anymore. It's all one. It's just a tab where you switch from one to the other. And migrated over all of my skills from Claude into ChatGPT. That was awesome because it just, as soon as it started up, it's like, I see you have all these skills for Claude and you have sessions open. Do you want me to just move them over into ChatGPT?
Nice.
So I did.
That's slick.
And I have been driving it with Sol, which is the smartest model from ChatGPT this week on my company's, ChatGPT license, of course, but it has been really nice. And I gotta say, I like the UI. It has projects, so I can see when I'm in one project versus the other as a little sidebar drop down. I can see all of the open sessions that I've got. They have little indicators next to them of like when it's thinking or when it's ready for review. And I can do all the code file review actually in ChatGPT. Like in another sidebar on the other side, it will open up the files that it's changed and it shows you the main screen where it's thinking and it's opening agents, it's closing agents, it's reviewing agents. It's got all the skills from superpowers that I used for Claude at its fingertips. So it's like doing all the stuff, but the interface is actually really nice. And I'm really surprised. Like the code it's writing is pretty good.
I've been using Codex a lot more recently because it has gotten so much better. And this is another thing, doing this podcast long enough, you can find the episode where I first tried Codex and I was really, really underwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, it took me a long time to come back to it because Claude was doing everything I needed.
Yeah.
And I've been impressed with Codex as well. And I've been doing a little bit more of just either using Claude to implement something and then Codex to like clean it up and review it. I've been doing those workflows a lot more. And part of the reason I've been doing that is Codex has gotten better. Their CLI has gotten better. Their desktop app has gotten way better and more usable. And I think some of that is ChatGPT and OpenAI have been, well, they saw that Anthropic was making so much money by targeting, companies and code specifically, that they've pivoted pretty heavily. You see ChatGPT work ads all over the place now. ChatGPT work, if you just go to chatgpt.com, it's going to tell you about work. It's going to try to encourage you to do work in their app. So they've seen what Anthropic's doing, and they're coming after it too. And the thing is, I think it's working because their stuff has gotten better.
Yeah, it is significantly better. The UX, like the developer experience, is actually really nice. Yeah, I would definitely say if you haven't used it in a while and you're curious, give it a try and compare it to Claude. But yeah, I think for at least a couple of weeks, I'm going to try to use this as my daily driver for everything and just see how it compares.
Very cool. I'm kind of bummed now that I cut my OpenAI subscription, but I can always bring it back. I'm certainly not going to work off an API key, man. Every time I work off an API key, my mind just boggles at like the amount of money. It's like saying hello in Claude is like 50 cents. It's crazy.
No, where I'm at right now is Claude subscription, OpenAI subscription, and that's subscriptions are still the most safe way to go to managing costs. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it was somebody was saying like a $200 Claude subscription was like $6,000 worth of tokens or something like that. It was pretty crazy.
It's insane. Yeah.
And of course, that's all subsidized. All right. So I'm not going to talk about AI on mine. I have a personal pet peeve around dark movies and dark TV shows in particular, ones that are visibly dark.
Yeah.
Like just like I can't see what's going on. And I was like, you know what? Like I've got a video library and I'm like, is there a way to get, or is there any service out there that assesses the darkness of a movie? I mean, it's not that hard, right? The visual darkness. And no, there wasn't. So I literally, I used AI and crunched, created a program that would crunch through all the numbers and actually come up with a UI that like show you, hey, like the darkest movie you have is, I can't remember, some horror movie or something like that. Obviously, Alien's very dark and all that and that stuff. And Hundreds of Beavers, which is my favorite cult classic movie from the last couple of years, is the brightest of all the films because it's basically black and white, and it's mostly white because it's in Michigan in the snow. And so that's the brightest one of all. But like all of the cartoony kind of movies end up in the kind of bright family.
Bright,
your Super Mario Galaxy, all the Pixar movies.
How are you determining this with AI? Like, is it going frame by frame and measuring this on video files? What is...
No, that part, that part is written by AI, but the actual process is just deterministic. Is we just grab, a frame every half second and then just literally take out the letterboxing and look at the pixel values and then do a normalization, and you get that over time, and that gives you your brightness of the whole film. And I'm actually running it right now against all my TV shows. Because I'm just curious because like I had it go and like look historically too, because I was thinking like maybe in the 70s they're brighter, but the thing is that the stuff in my catalog from the 70s is stuff like Alien, which is obviously a dark film. But if I had Smokey and the Bandit in there, I'm sure that would be a bright film. It's
so, I mean, that shouldn't surprise or amaze me, but I still just just the fact that you could just whip up a script to do that, right, is still, this is why AI, for as much angst as it's creating, is still kind of awesome in a way. Like I had last weekend, I wanted to share I talked about school pictures, right? We just got school pictures. My kids are going into 10th grade. So that means I've got 10 years of school pictures. Actually, they did it in preschool. So I've got like 12 years of school pictures. And I was like, you know what? It'd be cool if I should just dig up all the old ones so we could look up sequentially, just see them, the school pictures through the years. And then once I gathered all the actual photos, I was like, you know what? Instead of just sharing that with my family, with my extended family, let's just whip up Codex and just have it build a little site for showing this. And it did it in 5 minutes. I came back with one prompt and one small tweak. That I deployed it to Netlify, Jack. So your commission check. Dumped it out on Netlify real quick. Shared it, whatever. And then I tore it down afterwards because I'll take pictures of my kids down from the internet or whatever. But I did that in 20 minutes, right? And
exactly,
it just blows my mind. It's so cool.
And the other crazy thing is you could do things like you could actually hey, here's pictures of my kids, here's pictures of, one of my kids. And then I basically tag all the images with that kid and tag all the images with the other kids. And then do tag all the images with this dog. And you could do kind of cool searches like, hey, show me pictures with these two, my kids and the dog and this dog kind of thing.
I
you can do crazy stuff. It's crazy.
At least with Google Photos, which I use and I find has, part of the reason I use it, I find is it has the best search. So I was able to just look school portraits on Google Photos.
Yeah.
And it found all but 2 years. And then so 2 years I had to, the good thing about looking for school photos is they're going to be timestamped at around the same time. So it found, out of the 12 years I was looking for, it found 10 of them with just one search, which meant I just had to poke down to look for 2 of them. And so AI also on the search end is quite amazing too. So what a time to be alive.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. All right. Well, that was really fun. So yeah, and lots of great news this week, and we'll see you next week on Front End Fire. In the meantime, of course, go check us out on Discord. We have a channel over there where you can interact with us directly, and if we talked about anything in the episode, we can pop up there and show folks, and just go tell your friends, and we'll see you on the next Front End Fire.
Yeah.
See you, everybody.